Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you might be in the world. Welcome to the show, episode 232 of the Pro Synth Network live show. Welcome to you all. Thanks for joining us on this this lovely, but certainly here in the UK, a slightly chilly Friday for September, certainly for mid-September anyway. It's supposed to get better. Anyway, that's enough about the weather. That's very British of us. Very British feel to the show tonight, so I won't make any bones about that. I hope you're all well, and before we get into the meat and bones of the show, let's get the housekeeping done and out of the way. If you like what you see, give us a thumbs up on, just down there somewhere. And if you don't like it, give us a thumbs down. At least that way we know. If we get a majority of thumbs down, we might need to change something. But thankfully, you guys seem to like what we do. If you want to comment throughout the show, please do. This is all about you guys and girls out there who want to participate. The best place to do it is in the YouTube chat. But if you're watching us on one of the other services, such as Twitch, where else are we? Facebook Live, you can comment in there, and those comments will come through, and we'll share those around in the show as we go through. And if you haven't already, please do give us a subscribe. Hit that subscribe button now. It doesn't cost you anything, and it just helps us grow the channel every little bit of the way. We're almost at 4,300 subscribers now, which is small by many people's standards, but we are very, very happy to have had that many people subscribe. And make sure you hit the bell as well, because that means that you'll get reminded of every show that we do, if you want that, of course. And if you know somebody that might want to watch this show, benefit from this show, then please do share the link to those people and get them to come on board, and we'd love to see them. And if you're a first-time watcher this week, hello, welcome, and where the hell have you been? So yeah, do all of that stuff. That'd be fantastic. As you probably know, we are completely crowdfunded by our wonderful viewers and followers, and the main way that they do that is through the Patreon page. So it's patreon.com/Pro Synth Network, where all you have to do is subscribe for a minimum of $2 to US a month, and that gets you access to some exclusive content, whether it's videos, whether it's sound patches, and for different synthesizers. In fact, I've got some news about one of those in just a moment. So you get a whole bunch of free stuff and the warm fuzzy feeling of helping the channel stay on air, as we have been for what will be coming up next March for 5 years. We will have been doing this in March, so that's a milestone we definitely want to reach, and we can do that thankfully through all of your donations, which helps pay all the bills, such as software licenses and hardware, and quick trips to Bali and that kind of stuff. So yes, thank you very much for your support. If you were already a Patreon member, thank you. If you're not, then please do consider it. And you can, there's no contract. You can drop out at any time. If you think, oh no, I don't like them anymore, you can stop. It's easy. Just like you can do on YouTube as well, because that's another way you can support us, through YouTube memberships. You can sign up again for a minimum of $2 US. You get all the free exclusive stuff as well. So early access to video content and free sound patches for your synthesizers and other things that will be coming over the coming months. You can do that there. So whichever one you fancy doing. Some people actually do both. It's crazy. And of course, during the show, you can use Super Chat and Super Stickers if you don't want to sign up for a commitment type thing, then you can just send us a one-off of anything. Entirely up to you. You don't have to, though. It's not mandatory. But thank you for all those people that do. We're also, bizarrely, for a bunch of old guys, we're on TikTok. We thought we'd give this a go. I'm going to keep pushing it until I realise that maybe this just really isn't the platform for us. But inspired by one of our viewers, Mr. Ian Cole, who kind of became an overnight TikTok sensation simply by doing small videos from the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. We thought, oh, well, we'll have some of that cake. And we put some videos on there, and I believe that one of them, the maximum views is 67 or something like that. So it's not been a roaring success. But if you are a TikToker, because that's what my kids tell me that these people are, if you're a TikToker, then give us a follow on TikTok and have a look at our videos on there, and we'll ascertain whether that's a viable platform for us to carry on. But of course, we are across all of the socials, not just TikTok. We're on Instagram and Threads and Twitch and Facebook, and of course here on YouTube as well. So whichever platform takes your fancy. But my kids tell me that Facebook is for the old people. Instagram is for the cool people. We're not on Twitter or X anymore, or whatever they call it, because we just got fed up with that place. But whatever takes your fancy, you can join us on there. If you have a question or a comment to make directly, you want to grab our attention through the chat, stick a big capital Q in front of your question, and that just helps us pick it out and put it to one side, and we will bring that in, because we do have a very special guest today. But before we meet our very special guest, let me bring in my two cohorts, my partners in crime. First of all, let's go to Mr. Kent Spong. How are you, sir? You're muted. That's what you are. God. Audio professionals.
You muted me.
No, I didn't.
I didn't do it.
I didn't do it. I'm not going to fight.
I was sitting here, mind my own business.
Indeed. How are you?
Yes. Perpendicular.
Yes.
Yeah, good, thanks.
Good.
Yeah, interesting week. Yeah, interesting week.
That interesting?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. Good to see you, though.
Thank
Been
you.
busy, though. Been busy fixing other people's synthesizers.
Or breaking, depends.
Or breaking, yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
And then fixing them again.
Yeah. The world's
Cool.
dirtiest mini moog.
Ew.
Oh, by a long way.
Oh, dear. Did I see that when I came over? I think didn't you show me a really dirty mini moog?
Oh,
When I was
no,
over
there's
a few
nothing.
weeks-
There's
Oh.
nothing like no, no. That was dusty, mate, in comparison.
Dirty minimal.
Oh, dear.
It was covered in stuff, as it were.
Nasty. Anyway,
Yeah.
enough of that. Good to see you. And Siri as well, down in the corner there.
You coming up and say hello, quick?
There
Say
she
hello.
is.
Hello.
Sis.
Hello. Well done. Good girl.
Bless her. The other voice you heard there, of course, was Mr. Andrew Longhurst, or Victorian Lego figure as he's now known. Thank you for your donation. You're on the show. £2.32. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Looks like a melted Rory McGrath, doesn't he? Really?
Melted Rory McGrath, yes. That's a good one.
I can get insulted by much better quality. Just
I'm working on it. I'm working on it.
Yeah. So the £2.32, folks, is because I got 3 copyright strikes earlier this week as Victorian Lego figure because I'm a twonk, and I put up the same 3 videos we have in. I just put them up as tests on my YouTube, the new YouTube channel, which I just thought I'd do as a laugh after the pub. And I put them up there, and I didn't realise I'd put them up publicly. So Rob is on the phone to me saying, "What?"
I got a message from YouTube saying it had the word copyright, and I thought, oh God, what have we done now?
What have we done now? Yeah.
And actually, this was YouTube telling me that somebody had infringed our copyright, and I was like, okay, who's this? And then it's him.
It's me.
We're being brought down from the inside.
I did that thing.
Dear.
So they're down. It's all fine. I'll find
Good.
something to stick up there that's stupid. But otherwise, yeah, it's been a busy, stupid.
I hope we're
busy
talking
week.
about YouTube.
Yes.
As well. Yeah.
Brilliant stuff. Good to see you. And let me just also point out that Andrew Brooks, who is one of our moderators in
That's
the
a
chat,
whole
has
week's
donated
wages.
a
That's a whole week's wages for a
This
teacher.
is what a teacher gets in the
Yep.
UK these days.
That's very
£1.73.
generous. Very
Yeah,
generous.
absolutely. And Icing the Body Electric has donated £5 UK. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Didn't take much talking into it there, did you? I assume that the 173 from Andrew is to balance the 232. Oh, no, that doesn't work, does it?
Doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
The 232 is for the show episode number.
Of course. So what's Andrew's excuse?
He's several episodes.
He lives
late.
in the past.
He does.
Yeah.
He really does. Yeah.
He does.
Anyway, listen, everyone, we've got a brilliant guest this week. I had the great pleasure of speaking to this person and some of his cohorts from back in the day. Just last year when we did, or it was last year, back end of last year. God, that seems so long ago. And I had the absolute pleasure of meeting a hero of mine, and I've managed to convince him to come on to the show today. To be honest, he didn't take a huge amount of persuading. What can I say about this gentleman? You may know the name. I think most people do, but you will definitely know his work because he was one of a small number of people who designed the sounds for the factory sounds for one of the most popular, best-selling synthesizers of all time. And therefore, his sounds have been heard across a myriad #1 hits all around the globe. But he's one of that group, that sort of unsung group of heroes to who we owe, as synthesizer users, a huge debt. And I hope I haven't embarrassed him too much and bigged him up but beyond where he thinks he should be. But I think he should be right up there. It's the one and only, the Mr. Dave Bristow. Welcome. All the way from Seattle. What are you doing over there?
Well, at the minute, I'm sitting here being on this program that you said it was very easy to persuade me to come on to. But that was before I saw you lot, So I'm not so sure now. I'm going to leave the door open behind you.
Yeah, wise.
You'll be
wise.
fine. You'll be fine. We'll look after you. So you're based out over in Seattle, but obviously the accent gives you away. You're not a native from Washington State. What took you over there, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, I'll be honest. It was Emu Systems. It's where I met Andrew. And it was way back 94, 93, 94. Yeah. I'd sort of come to the end of the road with Yamaha. Mm-hmm. Nothing horrible, but just think, sort of things were changing. The excitement was different,
There's only so many electric pianos you can make.
Yeah.
This is true.
Anyway, I came to the end of the road, and at the time, still being, a known face, as it were, around the music trade shows and synthesizers. I did get a couple of calls, and one of them was from Emu Systems. They wanted some help with they would, at the time, in the back rooms, they were developing Morpheus.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember that synth.
Yeah.
Great synthesizer.
Amazing.
And what Emu Systems, it was always like the technology and sound that really interested me, and they were developing these incredible filters. And as you know, filters were not a part of my FM life at all. And so this really interested me, and of course they were, founders of sampling. I think Dave Bristow was really the guy that spearheaded that sort of sampling revolution.
Yeah.
And at the time, in my youth, in the 80s, I was always knocking sampling. I hated that, I didn't hate it, but I took up the position of being an anti-sampling person. I was all for creating sounds from scratch, with FM and things like that. So, having matured a little, by the early 90s, having this opportunity to work with Emu Systems, sampling and filters, it was the one area of synthesis that I had not dived into.
Yeah.
I jumped at the opportunity, to be quite honest.
And how did you take to it after so many years of avoiding such things?
Well, there's the side of sampling which is that sort of okay, everybody wants string sounds and brass sounds, and the identity, the realism of sampling was undoubtedly good.
Yeah.
It was never very interesting. It wasn't until I discovered granular synthesis and audio wave manipulation that I realized there was a whole load of stuff in playback of manipulating the playback of audio samples. Plus I got to learn about how filters really worked.
Awesome.
And I enjoyed it very, very much. I've never as a hobbyist synth person now, right? Or hobbyist electronic music person now, which is what I am. I still love FM synthesis. What can I say?
Absolutely.
I just, I love it. And in fact, Korg sent me a synth not long ago.
Oh, the Op6.
Yeah, the Op6.
Yeah.
What a nice little instrument that is.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I've kept it. I didn't send it back. Well, I like it. I'm not going to send it back either.
No.
But it was, it's a very nice instrument.
Yeah.
But anyway, I still love the FM thing. But Emu Systems was such a wonderful little company. There was about 100 employees. Deep hippies, every one of them. I learned frisbee golf. They taught me to play frisbee golf. I became very good at table tennis when things got a bit ugly with creative technologies. That was funny. Yeah. But but Emu, seriously, I love that company. I had such a great time.
Cool.
And
nice.
And they invited me to come over to the States, as these things happen, can you come back again? Would you like to stay a little bit longer? Blah, blah, blah. And
you've been there ever since.
Yeah. I know. I sort of forgot to go home.
Well,
I came home with 2 little baby daughters.
Yeah.
And
nice.
They turned into Americans, which happened. As you can tell, my American accent is probably not strong. Do I sound a bit American to you?
Not at all.
I should jolly well say so.
No. Not in the slightest. Not in the slightest.
No.
Brilliant. Well, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about the Emu stuff a little bit later on. But I want to start at the beginning because Julie Andrews said it was a very good place to start. And you're obviously mostly known for your work with Yamaha and the DX7. And there you go. Everyone's been waiting for me to say DX7 because it gets mentioned at least once a show. But you were dabbling with synthesizers some while before that, and particularly with Yamaha stuff, which I believe is how you sort of came across the whole DX7 gig. So I just wonder if you could just tell us about how you got into music itself, and particularly electronic music and synthesizers, because you did stuff with the CS-80, am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love the CS-80. That was a monster instrument.
Yeah.
Okay. So growing up, I learned to play the piano, and by the time I'd been to university and got properly educated, meaning that somebody told me about Miles Davis, whom I'd never heard about before I went up to Birmingham. Wow, I got into sort of jazz stuff. Found myself wanting to play in bands, jazz trio stuff. Yeah. Even in gangster-ridden Birmingham, playing at the opposite lock and places like that. And Barbarellas, Rebecca's. Wonderful stuff. But and I found myself in a rock and roll band, struggling like everybody was trying to get a deal. but I was essentially a snob pianist,
Okay.
and I was desperately saving up for a Fender Rhodes piano.
Mm-hmm.
I'd been through all sorts of things. I've carried ordinary pianos around on stretchers to try and carry them upstairs and all sorts of things like that. And of course, that never worked. And so everybody knows it was all about the Fender Rhodes. I had a Wurlitzer for a little while. That didn't even have a sustain pedal when I bought it from some guys in London.
Oh, really?
I strung from with the Wurlitzer to get the sustain pedal. You pulled down. With the Fender Rhodes, there was a rod that pushed up that lifted the dampers off.
Yeah.
Well, with the Wurlitzer, which is more like a real piano action, you pulled it down. I had a loop of rope dangling from that thing. I used to sit at the piano and stick my leg out like it was a broken leg into the loop. And for the sustain pedal, I just push down on it, Well,
Brilliant.
It was horrible. It didn't really work for me, and it wasn't very attractive on stage. People could see the sole of my shoe, sort of going up and down in front of me. But I desperately wanted the piano, and I did get my Fender Rhodes.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that day. I was probably early 70s, 71, 72, something like that, and happily played the Fender Rhodes in the band. Mm-hmm. And at that time in Birmingham, there was sort of one mini Moog was doing the rounds. Like you had Ozzy Osbourne and the Move and all of the Electric Light Orchestra and all these people who were on the road to success. And there was a mini Moog, and everybody sort of shared it. You got a go of this mini Moog, and I had my turn. And I remember when the guy gave it to me, he said, "Dave," he said, "look, if you turn the knobs and line it up, there were little bits of gaffer tape stuck. He said, if you line up all the knobs with the gaffer tape, he said, you'll get a sound out of it." that was it. But I remember playing with it and being fascinated by the noise, the sound. But I was thinking, I can only play one note, and doesn't respond to touch. And so all of my piano snobbishness, which I think lots of people had. I don't mean to be disparaging, myself or others, but with the piano, you don't think about like words like polyphonic. It just works.
Yeah.
The notion that you've got this keyboard and only one note works at a time, that's weird.
Yeah.
And that you've got these companies later on saying, "Oh, 5 notes polyphonic," sequential.
Yeah.
Wow, 5 notes out of 88 that I get on my piano. Yeah. I don't know. I just couldn't wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
But like so many other, amateur aspiring musicians, wanting to make a career in music, I worked weekends in the music store. Mm-hmm. And around, I want to say 75, would it be? In Birmingham anyway, in Woodruff's music store, as I remember there, all of a sudden, alongside the guitars, drums, and saxophones that would fill the window, all of a sudden, there's these little keyboards appearing. The Moogs, the ARP, Pro Soloist, and then these Japanese companies suddenly coming out with stuff.
The Korgs,
I remember the SH-1000 from Roland. I've been there on Saturday mornings making sounds on these things like anything, and doing my best not to sell them, because I didn't want them going out of the shop. I wanted to go in there and play with them.
Were you instantly sort of inspired to make new sounds with the? I mean, obviously none of them had presets, really, did they?
Well, they didn't have presets. No, it was all like you turned the knob and went on a journey. And yes, it was fascinating. And when it was decoupled from making music, which to me it was, this was Saturday mornings, right? Earning a bit of money in the store and playing with this stuff. Yes, you think, oh, I could use that in a song, but very much an extra. you know, to me, the real thing about making music was like the standard thing. It was, you know, melody, you know, pitch, rhythm, harmony. That's what made up the song, and lyrics. That's what music was all about. This was still other stuff. But then one day comes into the store CS-80.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, I thought that blew me away. All of a sudden, these sounds that you were making, which just sort of like hung out there as things to me, suddenly on a keyboard, which behaved like a keyboard.
Yeah.
That's the CS-80 was it was robust. You couldn't knock the thing over like a piano. It was nice. That was comforting. Not when you had to carry it, of course, but when you sat at it, it was nice. And 8 notes polyphony was sort of enough. You know, it used up all your fingers every time you pressed the note. It seemed to play. Plus that individual aftertouch and the glide ribbon across the top. Oh, I loved it. Yeah. I loved it. And I spent a lot of time in that shop just digging into the CS-80. I don't know if Kent knows Dusty, who used to work for Yamaha at that time.
Yeah. You know Dusty, don't you?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, okay. Dusty was wonderful. When I had with the CS-80, eventually they sort of lent it to me because I'd started to do demos for Yamaha. Dusty, he said, make the presets that you want, make it sound how you want it to sound. So I did with the controls, and then he comes in with his rheostats and things and measures the resistance and replaces the resistors in the presets there, so that the presets became my sounds. You know,
wow.
I love that. So the CS-80 was I just got sucked into it. And one day, one Saturday, I can remember Dennis, who was the marketing manager at Yamaha. It was Yamaha Kemble at the time. He imported Yamaha into the UK. Comes into the shop, and they were doing a demo that evening in Birmingham. And he comes into the shop and he says, "Can anyone here demonstrate the CS-80?" You know, why? Why, Dennis? Oh, because I forget the guy's name. He was a warehouseman who played the organ, and he usually did the demos on this thing. And apparently he'd had too much curry the night before. He was being ill somewhere, and he couldn't go on. So I'm in the shop saying, "Well, what's a demo?" You know, there's a group of like Birmingham musicians will be there, and you're just going to play some stuff and explain how this thing works. I said, "Well, I can do that." Cool. So I'll do it. And Dennis said to me, "That's £40." And I said, "I can't." You know, I thought he wanted me to pay £40. And so I said, "Absolutely." You know, as every musician knows, you know, crisply folded notes straight into the back pocket. That's a big thumbs up. Yeah, £40. That was more than I was earning in the week. Wow. So I said, "Yeah, I'll do the demo." So I did the demo, and of course, lots of the musicians, I knew them. You know, I was very comfortable playing in front of these people. And I'll tell you who was doing the guitars for Yamaha was Mickey Abrams.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
This was with, you know, from Jethro Tull. He just left Jethro Tull and started with Blodwyn Pig.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
So he was frightened of flying, Mickey Abrams. Oh. And Mickey was a real interesting, he's a very interesting guy. And he's a very good blues guitarist. I love Mickey's blues playing. So we played, you know, I met him for the first time this year. We just played together, and it was, oh, this is great. Wow. And then Dennis says to me, can you do another one in Manchester next week? Yes. And so I did that. And again with Mickey, and we had we were having a lot of fun on the CS-80, and I got quite good at demonstrating the CS-80. And then and I ended up doing like the London trade fair. So I was doing this until about 1976, 77. And then I think it was a London trades fair. I'm doing my thing with a little crowd of people around, and I hear this voice whispering in my ear, "Oh, Bristow-san." I'm looking around and, there's this little Japanese character. He said, "Would you like to do synthesizer in Blusser?" And I didn't know what he meant. I said, "Sorry, Blusser?" He said, "Yeah, pray in Blusser." And what he was saying to me was play in Brussels, in the Belgian trade show.
Wow.
I hope I haven't overstepped any bounds of political correctness, but
Sure not.
my Japanese colleagues will forgive me. I know. But, anyway, so that was my first contact with Yamaha beyond Yamaha Kemble. It was all CS-80 for Yamaha Kemble around the UK, and of course I was using the thing in the band as well. I brought an album out with John Etheridge and Rick Sanders. The band was called Second Vision. We sort of saw ourselves as a sort of Brand X type band,
Okay.
and that's got CS-80 all over it.
Yeah.
It's all over it.
So you had a real affinity with this.
I loved the CS-80. I loved it. So much so that so I did the Brussels thing, Blusser thing, and from Brussels, like Milan, France, there were trade shows everywhere. I had no idea. I'd hardly been on an aeroplane before, and all of a sudden, and it was like there was the 40 quid in the back pocket from Dennis for a gig in the UK. And I remember saying to the guy, how much will I get paid for playing in Blusser? And he said, £50. I said, damn, it's $10 more than £10 more than Dennis was paying for UK.
And all expenses paid?
Like a shop.
All expenses paid as well?
All hot dinner, all expenses paid.
Yeah. Wow.
What you going to say?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
the guy, interestingly, the guy who was importing Yamaha into Belgium was importing these weird drums that John Heisman was sponsoring.
Right.
So John Heisman was playing at this trade show. So what do? I team up with him, and I'm playing with John Heisman, who was a hero of mine.
Yeah.
Unbeknownst to him, he didn't remember me, but I'd auditioned for his band with, I forget what they called it now. I think it was Coliseum 2 it was going to be.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I was having great fun at these trade shows. But it was all CS-80. It was CS-80 down
all the time. Yeah.
And eventually, then in 1980, I'm all packed. I'm set to go and do a gig in Sweden or somewhere that I was really looking forward to, because I remember I'd never been to Sweden, and I get this phone call again from Yamaha saying, "Oh, sorry, Bristow-san, Sweden, you cancelled." Okay. And I was very disappointed, but before my disappointment sunk in, they said, "Because we want you to go to Japan."
Oh,
that was my first trip ever to Japan.
Yeah.
And it was to see the GS1.
Ah.
Wow.
I didn't know about this stuff at the time. I knew nothing about what was going on. I just knew, to me, I thought Yamaha was motorbikes.
Yeah.
And I knew nothing about nothing.
No.
But I had some success and got some notice playing the CS-80. And the fact that although the album First Steps with Second Vision was hardly successful, right? It was on Chrysalis, and I tell you what, they spent more money on Blondie's Breakfast than they did on us and the album. But nonetheless, it was a proper release. And I don't know if you know, John Etheridge is a wonderful guitar player. And Rick Sanders with Fairport and all the rest of it. was doing real well with the electric violin stuff, and it wasn't a bad album, So I had that, plus I think I was quite good at doing the demos, and I enjoyed it, and I would crack jokes and play, and
I was going to,
the musicians that I was meeting, I loved it.
Yeah, I was going to say, what constituted a CS-80 demo back then? What was the format of your demonstrations?
Well, I would talk a little bit about synthesis because I was trying to keep up. I did want to understand how it worked. I knew how filters worked. I didn't know anything about the math of sine waves and harmonics and partials or anything like that. But I could pretty much make any sound you wanted on that CS-80, and I would explain. The thing will be out there, and I'd play a few fancy things first of all, because you in a demo, as anyone knows who's done a demo, you spend you've got like 30 seconds just to make sure that the people who are watching have some sort of confidence in you, because they probably haven't heard of you. You're just a guy on stage.
Yeah,
you're probably not a famous musician. So you've got to show the folks that you're comfortable and you
know what you're doing.
Skill to play your instrument.
Yeah,
and you have to do that real fast, real quick. And I think I got quite good at that. Throwaway stuff,
Yeah.
And then I was interested in how it worked, and I just shared that interest, and we build up. Here's how a filter works. I'd show that, and then I'd give an example in the sound, or here's how a certain sound is made, and give an example. And it was rather like a, the way people watch Colin Furze make something on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah. 20 minutes. It's fun watching people make stuff and do stuff. And I think that held the interest. Plus, I coupled it with music. I put more and more music into the show, but mostly it was a one-man show. But then often, because it was Yamaha, at their big demos, they'd be showing guitars as well. So there'd be a guitarist like Mickey around, and we'd get together and we'd play, or someone playing drums.
Yeah,
forming bands.
Yeah.
So I imagine, Dave,
bands. And
Dave, I imagine, Dave, that Yamaha. I know the sort of Japanese sensibility.
Can't hear him.
Hello.
I still can't hear him.
Oh.
You can't hear me.
That's weird.
That's very odd. Hang on.
It's coming through okay here.
Can you hear me,
Dave? You can hear me, Dave? Can you hear me, Dave?
Is this me? I'm afraid I've stopped hearing people.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I can't hear you, Rob.
Oh.
Oh.
This is. Oh. Let's have a look here.
Should I click on something at my end?
No, you should be golden. That's weird. How strange. What's going on? This is strange. I don't think we've ever had this before. Audio. That's all there.
So let's write.
Rob, I can't hear you, so I'm just going to run a quick check at my end to see if I can. That my audio.
Put your thumbs up, Robbie. Good.
No, I'm still not hearing you.
No.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That's very strange.
That's very strange.
Because then you can't communicate.
Let me see if we can write a message to him.
My audio seems to have disappeared.
Right. That's weird.
Let's get into
log any audio.
Yeah.
Log
I can't. Yeah.
Out.
My Zoom. Okay.
There we go.
Rob, can I reset my system? Can I reset and rejoin?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Good stuff.
So, goodbye, everybody.
Okay. Yeah. Log out. Sign in.
Okay.
Good. Right. Okay. Well, apologies for that. That's I think we've ever had that happen before on the show. But and I was so enjoying listening to Dave's stories. Hopefully he'll come back in at some point shortly. But yeah, there he goes. He's off. He'll be coming back soon. I don't, Andrew, your camera's gone completely off, which is not a bad thing. It's not.
Yeah.
There you go. So you would have thought that I would have had something prepared in case of this eventuality. But this eventuality has never happened until now.
That's what Kent's for.
Indeed. Literally off the top of my head, you know those lovely, or the lovely person at Full Bucket Music.
Yep.
Today has released a free drum tracks plugin.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's completely free from fullbucketmusic.de. I'm sure our moderators will throw the link up. But literally, I only got the email about an hour before we came on air, and I had a little play with it, and it sounds 6 tracks.
Full Bucket Music. They're just they're brilliant.
They're wonderful.
Is it one? It's one guy, isn't it?
Yeah,
David,
one guy.
can you hear us?
I can, yes.
Yay!
Excellent, excellent.
I'm so sorry about that.
No. These things happen. It's live. It's live.
It's
happens.
live. It's rive. So,
It is, yeah.
Dave,
Yeah.
I was going to ask you a question,
Yes.
which was, I'm aware of the sensibilities of Japanese manufacturers and their culture, etc. So they must have had a certain amount of reverence for the fact that A, that you could play, B, you'd released a record, you were doing demos for them, you seemed to understand the synthesis side of things and were very comfortable doing that. So they must have taken to you very, very much indeed. So what happened from the CS-80 stuff? You ended up in Japan. What happened to then get you introduced into what was a completely new and novel way of creating sound, which was FM? How did that come about?
Well, as I said, I went to Japan. I did this trip to Japan. I don't know when we got cut off, but it was in 1980. I got this invitation to go to Japan, right? And it was to see the GS1. The GS, as you remember, the GS1 was that incredible thing that looked like a harpsichord.
Yeah.
Which was essentially, it was FM. It was actually 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs, FM pairs. Mm-hmm. And so I'm in Japan, and I'm welcomed there as a European synthesizer demonstrator, CS-80 demonstrator. They said that they were looking for someone that they could sort of have as some title, the European synthesizer demonstrator. I guess I was I became the candidate for that. They invited me to Japan. It was on that trip in 1980 that I met the troupe from America. Ha! There it is.
Oh, God.
Yeah. That's a bit of a mucky one. Look at all the grease on the... I've got some funny stories about that thing, I'll tell you. Anyway.
Magnetic card readers. But yes, carry on.
Yeah. So I meet Gary. It's the first time I met
Gary Luenburger. Yeah.
Gary Luenburger. And of course, I mean, I went there from Europe, right? I'm in jeans and a t-shirt. Mm-hmm. I went with a representative from Germany, believe it or not, because Yamaha European operation was based in Hamburg in Germany. Yeah. So I went with a German guy, Rolf Wupper, wonderful guy. I loved him. And we met up with the Americans. They were in their boots and big hats. and Gary was in a suit. I remember that. He was wearing a suit, looking very sharp. And I thought, oh gosh, And we were invited, the first thing after the pleasantries and the hello and staying in a Japanese hotel and all of that, you can imagine. Boom, the first official thing. We'd like to present a new synthesizer. So Gary had already seen the GS1. They'd had one in America. And he had even done some preliminary programming on it.
Oh, wow.
He'd met, not much, but he'd seen the programming board, the breadboard and everything. Mm-hmm. And he said, he said, this is going to, nudge, nudge. We're sitting there in this studio, lots of people there. He said, nudge, nudge. This is going to be good, Dave. I think you'll enjoy this, And then we're introduced to Yamaha Synths, who's going to come. He plays it, so he sits very formally at the GS1, presses preset number 1, and plays. And it's a sort of harpsichord sound. Mm-hmm. It was very bright, very, very, crystal clear, stuff. There it was. And I said, yeah. I said, oh, that's very good. Very, very crisp. Good. And then he sort of, Omaha leans back, gives it a smile, presses preset number 2, digs in and he plays. It's another harpsichord sound, slightly different.
Yeah.
And I sort of looked at Gary and I said, oh, okay, harpsichord 1, harpsichord 2, sort of thing. Yeah, that's nice, Anyway, we get to preset number 11. They're still harpsichords. Every single thing he played was a harpsichord, a version of, different sounding harpsichord, And I remember saying to Gary, I said, I'm getting fed up with all these harpsichords. What do I say? It sounded like they were taking off,
Yeah.
It's just harpsichords everywhere. Right to preset number 16. That was it. And when it was over, naive me, I hadn't learned my diplomatic skills.
You had no filters at the time.
No, at the time, I really didn't. I really didn't. And I said to Gary, I said, that was crap. I said, even though I was enjoying my visit to Japan, of course, and seeing the wonderful Yamaha factory and all the rest of it, I did remember saying, I said, I've been dragged halfway around the world to listen to an electronic harpsichord, and said, it's not for me, I want to go home. But then the demonstration is over and people start standing up to give speeches, and so well, Bristow-san, what do you think? And I can see Gary, because we've only known each other for a couple of days, right? But we clicked, and he was sort of like head in hands, Dave. He said, just be polite, Dave. And I said, Gary, I can't. And I said, look, I've been dragged. I didn't say I've been dragged. I said, I've come a long way to hear this thing. And I said, to be quite honest, I said, it's not any better than the CS-80. I said, CS-80 is a much better synthesizer. I said, you'd be better off with the CS-80 Mark II, I said, I don't know what's under the hood. I said, but it ain't any good. And it's got no future. and there's this sort of horrible silence, because you're supposed to, obviously, and looking back now, it was bad form on my part not to recognize all the hard work the engineers who were also sitting in that room had been doing for the last 10 years, to build this thing. And there's me saying, well, it's not really very good. It's you should stick with the CS-80. So anyway, there was some sort of consternation, and the room went quiet. And I remember saying, Gary said, what's happening now? What's happening? And Gary said, I really don't know. And anyway, 10 minutes later, there's a little commotion outside the door. Next thing, they open the door, and 4 engineers come struggling in, each at the corner of a CS-80 that they pulled from somewhere else in the factory. And they plonk it down, wheel in some speakers, plug the thing up, and then the guy from, one of the managers gets out and says, so Bristow-san, please show us. So I just had to. Well, anyway, I showed them. Yeah. And I think they were surprised, to be honest, because the initial presets on the CS-80 weren't that good. They weren't being very clever, and you could get some very high frequencies by pumping up the resonance and using it as a little dink on vibraphone type sounds, you know.
Yeah.
You could layer stuff and you could make stuff and you could get some bright sounds. And of course, the one thing that the CS-80 was doing that the GS1 was not doing was variety.
Yeah.
It was like the GS1 had been programmed by someone who hadn't figured out what you could do with FM. It really, really was. It was, you know, ratios 1 to 5, you know, harpsichord sounds.
Yeah.
If you can imagine that, you know, of operator pairs. And so I didn't sort of win the argument, but I think because they said, look, you've got to look beyond that, which is what I was looking at, you know, you've got to look beyond that. So, you know, can you hear stuff in this technology, which is going to make, when it is varied, you know. So anyway, it was a very strange day, and I had not endeared myself to the engineering team, but I did end up talking with Mr. Yamada and some people who had who had developed the GS1 and the FM system. And you know, next day I'm with a group and we're being shown the breadboard, and Gary said, look, they're working on something here which is called feedback. And feedback took a 2-operator system and did that, you know, that little feedback loop on the top.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you got brass sounds, real brass sounds. And I heard that, and it just sort of like, he's like, the fog cleared. Gotcha. And I realized that, you know, what I was railing against was just a very preliminary demonstration effort. You know, where it's been put, whether those engineers, they knew that this technology held hidden secrets in terms of sound. And they knew it was there, but the best that they could come up with was harpsichords.
Yeah. Because that was a sound that you know, many synthesizers weren't sort of capable of making, that very clean, glassy, crisp sound.
Absolutely.
And so they just basically labored that point 16 times.
I think so. I think.
So
sorry, but just to quickly finish, I mean, the whole story, the upshot of it was, I finished my week, you know, in Japan there, or 2 weeks, I can't remember how long it was, 10 days maybe. And at the end of that time, those of us who traveled, the Americans, the Germans, and there were some other press people invited from different parts of the world. Everybody was going to spend 2 days in Tokyo. And I remember at that point I went to Yamada. I said, hey, look, I don't want to go to Tokyo. I really want to find out about the GS1, because now, you know, now that the fog has blown away, and my confusion and my naivety has been sort of dispelled, as it were, I really want to find out about it.
Yeah.
So I stayed there. I stayed. I didn't go to Tokyo. I stayed in the factory.
Wow.
Padding around in my socks, sitting cross-legged on the floor with this thing, and I learned all about the GS1. Did some programming, a little bit of early programming, and I don't know, it just all made sense. It was wonderful. I loved it.
Right.
And I was so excited. I said, this is, you know, from on the first day, you know, saying, oh, this is crap, you know, saying, this is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, they must have thought I was a little bit stupid. But I think, fortunately for me, I think my reactions were genuine. I can, at least I can say that about myself. Looking back, I'm not happy with my behavior, on my lack of awareness and all the rest of it. But I was genuine, and I really did like the CS-80, and it was, you know, from a musical point of view, you know, I wanted good sounds. I was into expression and, you know, dynamics and touch and articulation and capturing musical gesture and all of that arty stuff. I'm genuinely into that stuff, and I think luckily that showed.
Yeah.
And at the end of that 2 weeks, they'd sort of pretty much, I got my backstage pass.
Nice.
And
so, question from one of our viewers here: what did the Japanese say when they heard something else that wasn't a harpsichord?
Well, at that time, not much, but I can tell you as our relationship developed. At the time when Gary and I were asked to do the voicing for DX7, which was 3 years later, or 2 years later, and we're back in Japan. In meantime, I'd been back and forth to Japan a lot. I became a frequent flyer backwards and forwards. When we played the DX7 voices to those engineers, we had about, by the time we left Japan, that first voicing session, we'd done sort of like, I want to say 75% of what we'd done. We played it to the engine. We did a little thing for the engineers. Gary and I would take turns playing stuff, and we put a few little tunes together and things, playing on 2 DX7s. Some of those engineers, those guys, they were in tears.
Wow. Because
they'd spent so much work, so many long hours, and they hadn't heard anything. They hadn't heard any music.
No way.
They just heard and looked at oscilloscopes and graphs.
Yeah.
And
this was a revelation. Yeah.
Yeah, they're very touched.
So tell me, because the legend has it that you and Gary were given 5 minutes, or something near to that, to come up with the factory presets. Now everybody knows that there's 32 preset slots on a DX7, but of course the DX7 introduced this concept of cartridges storing sounds and being hot swappable. And did they ask you to do like 128 patches in a couple of days?
Well, not sort of, yes. I mean, that's how the story goes, and I'd always tell that story for a laugh. I think the truth is closer to saying that, before the DX came out, I had a prototype that I took home to my studio at home in London, or in Bedfordshire I was living at the time. Gary had one over in San Francisco, and we had been asked to make 32 voices for the DX7, and we were due to go back to Japan in a couple of months' time, where we would round off these 32 voices in the studio with their engineers and everything. And so 16 voices each, and I had a month or so to create these voices. And bear in mind, I've now got 2 years, as indeed has Gary, 2 years experience with the GS1 and the GS1, programming the GS1, which was tough, but it was like FM in bite-sized chunks. When you only have 2 operators, you have to really learn what sounds they can make. And by the end of those 2 years, I could tell you what the sound of a couple of operators at such and such a ratio was going to sound like. And then you just add an envelope to each thing, and that's it. I mean, that's all you got. So you could, and then it's like layering sounds. So you could tell, and I was ready to imagine what a third operator would sound like if it was coming in on the top. Still didn't understand FM, didn't know anything about FM theory. This was still learning the dimensions of sound, like you learn the dimensions of a filter as you open the filter up, where it will take you with a particular sound. So it was with FM, and we had a lot of experience. 2 years is a long time to learn something, especially if you've only got a very simple version of it to learn. That's it. People ask me, how did I learn to program FM? Well, it was like that. It was slow. It took a long time. But anyway, so we're back. I'm on the phone to Gary quite regularly. How are you doing with your 16 sounds? Fine. How much? We split things up. You do a piano, we'll both do a piano, we'll both do an electric piano. Should we do a trumpet sound, blah, blah, blah. And then we left for a few others. And I can remember before going to Japan, calling Gary. I might even have gone via San Francisco to spend a couple of days with him before we went. I can remember me saying, Gary said, hey, I've got about 24 sounds going here. And, they're sounding all right to me. And he says, yeah, he's good. Yeah, about the same. And we're thinking, we're good. We've got. So we show up at the first meeting. Oh, hello, Gary. Hello, Dave. Have some news. It was always like that. There was always some sort of very happy, oh, good news. Yeah, good news. We need, we changed spec. Not going to be 32 voices. No, going to be 128. Please. Sorry, how many? How many did you say? And and we need them by. Sorry, what? And eventually, oh no, it's 128 voices, and we need them by Thursday. Today is Monday. Oh, and I'm thinking, well, Gary and I have got, let's say, 36 between us, that are good, ready, sort of almost ready to go.
Yeah. Plus,
there was a good another, 20, couple of dozen voices that different engineers had made. And one or two other people in the States, Gary's friends at the Yamaha Corporation of America had come and had a fiddle and done something that sounded nice. So there was a sort of basket of stuff, but at most there was a basket of, 48, 50 voices, of which 16 to 20 were reasonably polished, but not completely polished, but reasonably polished.
Yeah.
Here they are saying they want 128 polished pre's by Thursday. It was, Gary said, he said, Dave said, we better get to work. So, and this was literally, this is Monday morning. You're just getting over jet lag.
Yeah.
Landed in Tokyo the day before, gotten on the Shinkansen down to Hamamatsu, sat up all night drinking and reminiscing because you've meeting your mate from,
of course,
San Francisco, and then come staggering into Yamaha. And we probably both already bumped our head on the brick because the doors were so low on the wall outside the factory where we worked. That's a bit of a divergence, but I did bump my head real badly on that thing a number of times.
Wow.
I'm sure it's affected me over my life. Going into the studio then and having to do that stuff, he said, we got to start now. So they set up a studio, 2 DX7s in it. And I can remember sitting there with Gary, the door shuts and we're in there on our own. And we've got a couple of RAM cartridges with all of the voices. I said, well, what are we going to do? He said, well, we'll listen to everything that we've got. And that's when we realized we had about 24 voices ready to be worked on, ready to be polished, and the rest we didn't have. So, and I think about this, put yourself back then, and turn yourself, you're not a musicologist, right? You're just an ordinary musician. You're rock and roll musician. Ask yourself, can you think of 128 different sounds? We sat there and I went, well, the piano, we got that. Electric piano, got that. Trumpet, got that. Muted trumpet. Trombones, right? Got that. Strings, yes. Cellos, yes. What about violas? Are they the same as strings? How many have we got? Oh, that's 6. Plucked instruments, guitar, 7. You try and think of all the instruments. I can remember saying to Gary, I said, Gary, what else is plucked? And he said, chickens. That's all he could think of. But really, we had a hard time thinking of voices
Yeah.
you know, and so we started. I mean, we just, as you can see from the DX7 presets, it's sort of boring to start with. You know, piano 1, piano 2, brass 1, brass 2, brass 3. Can we get away with a brass 4?
Yes.
It was sort of it was a little bit like that.
Yeah.
Because we just couldn't think of.
Yeah.
We would, and there was no Google. You know, Siri, can you come up with 128 instruments, please?
No Chat GPT.
No, we had to remember. To try and think of. We're back in school. You know, remember music classes and things. Trying to think of instruments. Oh, koto, we thought. We're in Japan. Koto, yes.
Yes.
And what's that other thing that they have? You know, the shamisen.
Shamisen, yeah.
And suddenly we thought, oh, it's a treasure trove. Well, what about Indian instruments? Yes, sitars, yes. And, you know, we're all pleased with this. This is on Monday. You know, by the way, got any idea how to make a sitar on this new synthesizer?
Yeah.
You know, that hasn't got any filters.
Yeah.
You know, it was just like dive in. But we were so intense. We worked. I mean, if you count the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. I kid you not. We were in the studio by 8 o'clock in the morning. We didn't leave it till 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the
Following morning. Yeah.
And on Tuesday evening, and this is a first for Japan, first for Yamaha. And there are people who know about it, but one of the managers on Tuesday, it's about 6 o'clock. They would bring food in for us. Of course, that didn't help. You know, I don't know if you've ever, open a bag of crisps. Imagine next time you're in a pub and you open a bag of, is it still Walker's over there?
Yeah, yeah.
Bag of Walker's, you know, sour cream and onion or salt and vinegar crisps. You take something that looks like a crisp, and when you eat it, it's a blooming dried bit of octopus or squid or something, you know, and you're not particularly keen on that stuff. I didn't like that stuff. That's a shock.
Yeah, I bet.
It really is. I tell you, they come in with these bags of stuff, and it looked like ordinary crisps, and I can remember just grabbing terrible. You know, we didn't know what to eat.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't get over that.
Was alcohol involved?
Well, yes, it was.
I thought it was.
This one manager, he bought in a full bottle of Suntory whiskey.
Oh, nice.
And stayed with us. And I remember him saying to us, he said, "Oh, Gary-san, Dave-san, first time alcohol brought into a factory." Huh?
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And but we would finish the bottle, and that's how we stayed awake.
Yeah. But by Thursday you had 128. Yeah.
I reckon that by Tuesday evening, you know, we got into it. Like I said, we did have this background. It's not like FM was completely strange to us. What was strange to us was the DX7.
Yeah.
And the idea of choosing algorithms. But like I said, we'd spent 2 years wishing for an extra operator or two up the top.
Yeah.
Thinking, oh, you could do this, you could do that. And certainly we were well on top of the envelope, those lovely sophisticated envelopes.
Yeah, they were great, weren't they?
Yeah. And I'll tell you, even now, I love software synths because it's easy. You don't have to carry them around. You know, they're just in the computer. The speed of those hardware envelopes, you couldn't. You know, it was way under. I want to say way under 4 milliseconds.
Yeah.
You know, you could really do crisp envelopes, real smashing, real tight stuff.
Yeah,
made a huge difference. But I think by Tuesday evening we'd gotten to the stage where I can remember doing the clavinet stuff, trying to work on clavinet and getting a reasonable sounding clavinet. You know, of course, we do the Stevie Wonder thing. Yeah. And I said, you know what, Gary, I can hear a saxophone in there. It's sort of, you know, if you ignore the envelopes and the articulation, there was elements of, we started hearing elements of one instrument in another.
Yeah.
Of course, and so we started to get pretty sophisticated at it. We quickly realized the importance of velocity sensitivity. Just slam that on everything. Not enough. And those initial presets, not enough, but, you know. And so we could start going where we wanted to go. If we could think of something, either he, Gary, or myself were able to pretty much drive there. And the other person would like come in and say, well, you know, you need to polish, you need to do this, you need to do that.
And were you programming this directly onto what was a production DX7?
Yes.
Yeah.
Essentially, there were production DX7s. I think there was a couple of differences, but they look, if you looked at it, you think it was a production DX.
Yeah. So I know Andrew's going to come in with a question, but I just very quickly want to ask, because, you know, those 128 sounds, so many of them are now part of musical history.
Yeah.
I know that Gary was responsible for Electric Piano 1, which, you know, he takes great pride in the fact, he said, of it being voted, you know, the worst synthesizer patch ever. What were your favorites, but also what were the famous ones that we can blame you for?
Well, I know one. I think I'm pretty well. I was very much interested in like bell sounds and stuff. I did tubular bell, which is Taco Bell's Ding Dong,
and Top Gun as well.
Yeah, and there was a nice guitar thing. I forget the name of the bands, but gosh. It was a plucked guitar. I love the plucked sounds, and I love trying to get sound on the release of the note. My favorite way of doing the electric pianos, and was the harder, more brassy type electric pianos.
Yeah,
with more knock. And I was never very keen on the ballad piano. not for music, and not for my sort of music. It was a great sound, you know, and I understand its popularity, and I was definitely into it. And like Gary, you know, we worked on each other's sounds all the time.
Right.
You know, you do a sound, and then I just hand it off.
Yeah. Because
you miss things.
Yeah, because you couldn't you? Yeah.
Yeah, that question, I'm seeing a question here where you use external DX7. No. It was all through hard cold. We sat, there were two DX7s, and we sat at them and we went at it.
Yeah.
Dave,
a couple of things where we lost, you know, people would come in, trip over cables.
And they go, oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Dave, when you were in the room with Gary, there's something, it's extraordinarily difficult creating sounds by yourself, because you think it sounds one way, and then you go away and come back and listen to it the next day or a few hours later, you go, oh, that's not what I thought. I don't remember it being that. You don't hear it in the same way because you're so embedded in it. How useful do you think it was that the two of you were in the room together? Because it seems to me you probably accelerated the whole process of authoring sounds, because it's something which is so much more difficult when you're by yourself.
Oh, yes. I think the partnership thing can't be overemphasized, the importance of that. And I think it's something which is important in all aspects of life. You know, the partnership thing, you know, you want to do it on your own because you want control, you know, but someone else can just give you that, help you see behind the thing that you're working on. I've always thought that about Lennon and McCartney, you know. You know, it's sometimes it's clear who did all the work, but you think, you know what, but it probably wouldn't quite have been what it was without the other guy, you know.
Yeah.
And I know with with Gary, we clicked on sound so back at that first visit, you know. And our second visit, we were voicing other stuff like the SK series. And I can, my goodness, we pulled a fast one on the engineers. You know, they wanted it too bright. It was just too bright. So we fixed it so that, you know, I forget what did we do, because the breadboard was exposed and we were supposed to set these faders at something. It was just a simple subtractive setup, right? For the SK, whatever they were, I forget. And I, you know, they said, what about this brass sound that we just made? They opened the filter, you know, because they wanted it to be brighter. There is a thing, there is a cultural differences here, you know. I don't know if you've ever been to Japan, you know, but
no.
You know, the sound of those little bells in the elevators and the lifts and all of that sort of thing. It's all bright. Everything's bright. Gary and I wanted a slightly more mellow brass sound, you know.
Just coming to that quickly, because I know there's, you know, in our industry, there was certainly during the 80s, 90s, there was a thing where Yamaha grand pianos, they're proper concert grand pianos, they were incredibly bright, and a lot of musicians used them because they were so bright they cut through, whereas the rest of us were still looking for that sort of more mellow European grand piano sound. So that kind of translates, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah, that was there. But I think it just goes to show that, you know, different people hear things different ways. And because Gary and I, we were so cued into each other, and we'd become real firm friends. Really, it was one of those nice things, you know, just happened. It's lucky, I suppose. But we worked together well. You know, you could, if I'd made a sound and I gave it to Gary, I would expect it to come back sounding better.
Yeah.
You know, it didn't occur to me that he might mess it up in any way.
Yeah, sure.
And I think he felt the same about me. I hope he did.
Yeah.
You know, so that makes things very productive, and it also gives you a chance to sort of spot with any complicated system. If the system itself takes you somewhere, you know, don't fight it. If you've got a bit of time, don't fight it. Let's see what it can do. Remember that, save it, and then come back to what you were working on, because that thing where it took you might be interesting on another day, sort of thing. So we did start find things like those sounds like Japanese water garden.
Yeah.
Things like that. I used to love trying to find and make those sort of sounds. And sounds which conveyed things. Remember, I'm still, in my hearts, I wasn't after imitation. You know, that sounds silly to say, doesn't it? Because all the presets are sort of imitations of things. That wasn't my goal ever. My goal was to make sounds on the synthesizer which referenced known things.
Yeah.
You know, if you know how a flute works musically, what it does to a piece of music, what it sounds like when someone plays it, what a trumpet sounds like, what it does to a piece of music, then if you can make a sound on the synthesizer which I want it to have that effect.
Yeah.
A good starting place is just to copy it, but then you need to go behind that and find out what it does.
Dave, the other thing which I think you're also known for, I remember you for it from, you know, when we were working together, is you've always also, and you've mentioned it earlier, had a real passion for articulation. It's not just the instrument, you know, just on and off isn't enough. You know, adding velocity, then adding aftertouch. And I know you were early into wind controllers as well, the breath controller and other things. That must have been around about this time, you know, at Yamaha, where wind controllers and all these other, because the DX was absolutely revolutionary when it came out in terms of the control and articulation. How much of that was a part of your thinking when you were creating those presets, but later on as well, because it became really known for it.
Always, Andrew, always. I loved it. I always wanted to get the wind controller working on everything.
Yeah.
I wanted expression pedals to do that expression, you know. It's beyond just volume. I think I tell you where that started, or some of it started in the electronic world for me, was going back. It's going back to the piano thing, you know.
Yeah.
Before I had was lucky enough to be able to afford and buy a Rhodes piano. I'm looking for, or it might have been after, I can't remember. But anyway, looking for electric pianos, and I can remember this thing coming out, Krumar from Italy.
Yeah.
Oh, and it said touch sensitive, and I'm thinking, oh, good, that's what I want, touch sensitive. And I remember playing it in the shop or something, boom, and then hitting it harder, boom, and I'm thinking, yeah, that's louder. It's touch sensitive. And then taking the thing out and trying to play it in a band, and ending up with like blood all over the keyboard. So hard to try and get some expression out of the thing.
Some dynamic, yeah.
Not realizing that expression has nothing or very little to do with volume and everything to do with timbre. And I mean, I sort of carried that with me, and I was, you know what, you know how it is when you're working with a company, you do want to please the managers, you know. Japanese, I tell you, Japanese companies are special. Yamaha is a special Japanese company. It's old. It's over 100 years old, you know. But those people, those managers at the top of Yamaha, they're not just managers. I mean, they are of impossibly high rank. You can't believe it, you know. When they come, you know, when the manager of Yamaha walks into a trade show, you know, he's got 3 people walking in front of him and 2 people walking behind him. And it's like the emperor.
Yeah.
You
want to please these guys.
Yeah, I'll remind you one day of the Sony story, but because I met the chairman of Sony when I was working at Church.
Yeah.
But listen, just to take you, because you've mentioned a couple of things which I really wanted to just draw your thoughts back to when you were at EMU, and I was working in Europe. You were there as, I think you were VP of marketing, weren't you?
What a mistake that was.
Yeah, but listen, we all do things. But do you remember when the orchestral module, the Virtuoso 2000 was about to be launched? Because we were, I think, from Europe, we were invited over 2 weeks before the launch to hear this thing, and I remember there was 30 of us in the room with you in there as well. And it was played back to us. People were playing the samples were fantastic, but they're playing it back and it sounded dead and lifeless. Yeah. And I remember people saying, "Oh, they're marvelous," you know, or rather, "Yeah, yeehaw." And I remember I did a U. I stood up and said, "I think it sounds shit. I think it sounds really awful. Yeah. You know, where's the articulation?" Yeah. And I remember we spent 2 weeks with pretty much everyone in the company sitting down with the presets, and because of the patch cord system that the EMUs had, and they had the advantage of the G&H chips, the filtering and everything else, we were able to add in all these articulations like overblowing with trumpets and bowing on strings and legato playing, true legato playing. And I remember you being there watching that, and you had a wry smile on your face the whole time. Now, I didn't know about the story with Yamaha, but I remember you being there and encouraging us, saying, "Yeah, no, do it." Yeah. Do you remember that? I
vaguely remember it, because EMU, that was a consistent problem with EMU. You know, they had this wonderful sound generation technology, but because they were just a little manufacturer, you know, they were buying off the shelf keyboard components and mechanical components that were, to be quite honest, less than good, I think. You know, they worked, they were okay. And as long as you were dealing with the sound, which is what most people wanted out of that gear, as a musical instrument, the one that I'm remembering that was hardly satisfying at all.
Because you got quite involved with Morpheus, didn't you?
Sorry?
Didn't you get quite involved with Morpheus? Because that was a Dana Massey and Dave Rossum.
Yeah.
I think Dave came up with essentially the Z-plane filter, and Dana gave it, breathed life into it, as it were.
Yes.
And you just saw it and you went, that's what I'm after.
Yes.
Tell us a little about that.
14-pole filters.
Yeah.
Incredible. Incredible.
Yeah.
Moving in real time. I've tried many times actually to recreate Morpheus with Reactor, Native Instruments Reactor, just for fun. Never been able to really do it. And I've got I don't know if I should say this. I've got a Morpheus in my garage, and it doesn't work. And I wish I knew a bit more electronics that I could. It's probably just a capacitor somewhere, on the power supply side. But I wish I could get it working again.
Kent can fix that for you.
There you
Kent,
go.
have you got any thought? Because Dave is clearly was a big CS-80 bod, and I don't know if you know this, Dave, but Kent has fixed or restored 600 of the 800 CS-80s out there.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yes. So that proves I am stupid. So it's confirmed. Yeah. A question. There is a question that's bugged me. Strings 1, 2, 3, and 4. What the hell? What are they for? Just colour or what? I could never find a use. No, maybe string 3
You're talking about the 80.
on the 80. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, those presets on the CS-80 were awful. They were horrible, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah. Those first 4 presets were just sort of like space fillers or something. I'm not quite sure what their purpose was.
I don't honestly. I really don't know. I think that
Made Brass 1 and 2 sound much better when you got to it.
Maybe that was it. Balance.
yes.
Yeah.
Yin and yang.
Yes.
But seeing that the 80 is designed to fire up on string 1 and 2.
Yeah, but
when you turn it on, and it's like,
I think,
like what?
if I remember rightly, correct me if I'm wrong. You've probably got CS-80 in front of you.
Yeah, it's over there. Yeah.
Into my memory here. When you press the preset, it does not engage the chorus effect or anything
No.
like that. Or a little bit of ring modulation, so you can just hint at a sort of swirly effect. You just got the dry preset.
Yeah, you just went down to the preset board, which is just basically a series of resistors copying what the sliders are set to.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the string sound was intended. I think when in those days, when anybody made a string sound, and bear in mind in the 70s, there was no memories or names for presets. I think the DX7 was the first synthesizer to introduce an LCD, which you could put your own letters.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Was it, how many characters was it? I can't even remember. 7 or
It's not many, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't a
8,
lot.
yeah.
No.
yeah. And because I can remember going out and when I was first demoing the DX7 and telling people, hey, you can write the name of your preset in here. People love that. And I know that it was as regular as clockwork. If you left someone with a DX7, the first thing they put in was their own name. They'd write, Dave or whatever. And then they'd sort of like try something like, Brasso or something. Then they put in like a rude word to see if,
Yeah, exactly.
or something.
Yeah.
And then they'd end up calling it Brass 1 or Brass 2,
Bored of that now, yeah. we've got about 30 minutes left, so I want to sort of talk about a few other things. So, DX7 is you've done the work. It's incredible. It's sold, by the bucket load. You're doing more and more voicing work for Yamaha, but you're also doing a lot of still doing the demonstration work up and down, not just the UK, but all around the world. I mean, here's a picture of you at the X Series convention in 1986, and I think I pointed this out when I did this presentation at Synthfest last year. If you look to the right, the far right there, you'll see a guy with curly hair and glasses sitting at the front row, and just to the right of him is a guy that's looking at you like he wants to murder you.
Yeah, male, isn't it?
That is a friend of mine. Obviously, wasn't a friend then, but that's a guy called Jonathan Redman, who was at that very thing, and he remembers this demonstration amazingly well. But I mean, we just look at that picture there, and you're surrounded by Yamaha gear. So this is '86, so we're looking at Mark 1 DX7s, and there's a few other bits there as well. But around that time, you were also doing full-on demonstrations with the whole suite of FM products, so the TX816, the QX1, and I've actually, I hope you don't mind me doing this, but you've got some footage on your YouTube channel, so anybody can go and watch this. This is Dave with a KX5 controller playing various tones, all coming from, I believe, the I mean, that gives you an idea of what's going on.
It does go into a bit of country style rock and roll after that, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. All of these videos are available. I mean, there's let me just throw this one up here because I think this one might be a bit more. So, I mean, what?
Just to put this into context before we say anything, Robbie.
Yeah.
We're talking about what 80.
Well, this is exactly what I was going to say. Yeah.
Right now, the thing is, today, in fairness to kids, it probably looks like Kenny Everett trying to strangle a lampshade, right? But in actual fact, getting that expression from a keyboard, then was like, holy shit, man!
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. Is that in 1986, you've got one man, and then a TX816 with basically eight DX7s and a QX1 to sequence that stuff, and I guess an RX11 maybe drum machine.
I think it's an RX11. Isn't it?
Yeah, and then you've got your KX5 with your BC2 wing controller. And in 86, to see one man on a stage do that was, because it just couldn't be done before. And you try telling the kids that, I mean,
People are going, finally, the keyboardist might get some of those women
Yeah.
that are waiting at the back door.
Yeah, that's right.
but
For
you
the
talk,
guitarists.
you mentioned about expression, and there was, bucket loads of expression, because you've got the wing controller, you've got the strip on the grip on the KX5, and of course you've got the pitch bend and stuff, and all this stuff going. I mean, at those events, were people just like mind blown? It was how defining were those kind of moments for you?
Well, I think it was pretty good. I mean, that particular one, that was a big theatre on the Champs-Élysées in Paris. And it was full. It was 1,500, 2,000 people in there.
Wow.
And admittedly, there was a competition. John Channing was there, I can remember. But the thing was, I did about an hour's performance of solo music at that thing.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And it was, I put a lot of effort and time into making what I thought was reasonable music,
Mm-hmm.
And it did go down well. And of course, it had been honed on the sort of training ground of all of these music trade shows.
Yeah.
Which in the 80s there were a lot. You got the London trade show, the Paris trade show, Brussels, Milan, Stockholm, Melbourne, Australia, NAM, Chicago, LA.
Mm-hmm.
I was traveling to all of these trade shows all the time, and Frankfurt in Germany, of course, and doing these sort of like mini shows to 100 or 200 people, usually packed into a small space, sometimes a larger space if I was traveling. So I was learning how to entertain with. I'll tell you what it was a bit like. It was a bit like Victor Borger.
Yeah.
It was a mixture of genuine music, I felt, plus a good dose of humor, plus some, information, which was really the reason that these people are there. But it did become entertaining, and there was a period there where people would come to my demos, expecting they didn't care about synthesizers.
They just want to be entertained.
And also, I was lucky enough that then, I remember the first time I suggested it, I said to Yamaha, I said, "Hey, look, I'm supposed to be doing a tour of Sweden. Can I take a band?" And I tell you what, you can go into any pub in London, where your musical mates hang out, and if you say, "Hey, 10-day tour of 10-day tour of Sweden," and then £50 a day, all found. And then you've got to say hot dinner every night, and all of a sudden everybody jumps up. All of these wonderful musicians, show up. So I went out, did stuff with John Etheridge, Mickey Barker on drums, and we played all over the place. We did a tour of Canada, played at the Elmer Combo, which was a very fancy club, where the week before, the Stones were there, and traveling in. They were playing in the big arena, and we were in the club upstairs. And it was a Yamaha demonstration.
Yeah,
it was a synth demonstration. But we had a whole set of music, and it's almost like a schoolboy's dream. Is you're doing this music which you're writing for yourself. People don't have to like it.
No.
You don't have to sell anything. You've got no record companies breathing down your back, and you're getting paid honest day's wage for an honest day's work. It was pretty good. And I can remember every time we'd be coming back on the plane from one of these tours saying, "You know what? We should form a band." As soon as it touches down, as soon as that plane touches down, you're out of the fantasy world. All of a sudden, you've got to own some gear of your own. You've got to find people to help you get it set up and go out, and you've got to produce albums, and you've got to do all this stuff. You've got to be very, very serious about what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. It's crazy to think that this is what synth demonstrations were like in the 80s and the 90s.
Oh, yeah.
And nowadays we come to places like this, to YouTube, and we can be inundated with a gazillion demonstrations. Some are great, some not so great. But we don't get, that maybe we do get the same levels of entertainment. I don't know. I suppose it's a very subjective thing. But it's,
But Robbie, it was sort of a fantasy world.
Yeah.
I can remember Frankfurt. I'd be hanging out with Steve Gadd, Alfonso Johnson, you name it, because we were all musicians and nobody cared. Nobody cared really who you are, as long as you can play. If you're playing with someone, as long as you can play, it's okay.
Yeah.
And those worlds, like at Frankfurt, it got to a stage, I think in the 80s, 86, 87, 88 maybe. I would be doing 4 demonstrations a day, with my sort band, and I'd have different people. I did 1 year. I took a gal called Jackie Graham.
Yeah,
she's on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, I've got the clip here. Yeah,
I think with her singing.
Yeah,
and I'm playing the old KX5 with Jackie,
leaning into it. Yeah,
yeah. Now, admittedly, I knew Jackie from Birmingham, and I played with Ruby Turner.
Oh yeah.
Ruby, wonderful singer. Anyway, but at Frankfurt, 12 o'clock demo in the Yamaha, there'd be queues. There'd be lines around the block. People trying to get into this thing.
I remember, Dave. We had a chat once at one of the shows, and I remember we talked about the whole thing of the reason a lot of people came to these demos back then was because there weren't that many different ways of making music, and synths were something that was new and different. And what you were doing with the demos was, as much as anything else, saying, you can make this sound. This is a sound you can make. If you own this, you can make this sound. You don't have to be a special, a gifted, talented keyboard player, a pianist. You can make these sounds because you'd show people how to do that. And I always remember that because so many people would just turn up to go, can I, is this for me? Can I use this?
Yeah. So we got about 15 minutes left, and we've got some questions from our viewers that I want to throw at David. So, but first of all, I just want to recognise Dr. Mike Metley. $5.50. Don't ask me why. Just shut up and take my money. Always, I'll take the money off of you every day of the week. He still owes me
to all the girls.
He still owes me dinner. Of course, Mike's new book that he's been working on. It's Joe Silver has authored it, but Mike has been part of the editorial team. Is the Mini Moog book from Bukes, which is going to be arriving on people's doorsteps pretty damn soon. Thank you for that, Mike. Much appreciated. Also, I know this guy, Steve, aka Ixorb. I knew he would be watching this because he's been bugging me for about 2 years. Get Dave Bristow on. Get Dave Bristow on. Get Dave Bristow. There we go. We've done it, and he's donated $9.99. So thank you very much indeed. I think he had to pull over into a lay-by to do that. Much appreciated. And of course, here's one that Dave will know. Dr. Synth, aka Manny Fernandez. He still thinks he owes you a sake to down those shrimp crisps from the SY sessions, because of course you guys worked together, didn't you?
Who is this?
Manny Fernandez.
Oh, is that Dr. Synth?
That's Dr. Synth.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go. There's the sake coming your way.
Manny's a dentist.
Yeah, I know.
There's a
he likes high pitched sounds. That's why.
There's a preset on the SY-77 which was called Nasty Sawtooth.
But tish.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
We used to be real terrible with the preset name and trying to sort of slip one past the authorities. And one, which I tell you what, as a special gesture to you guys, and thanks for having me on, I'll let this one go. I don't know what Yamaha's going to say, but because Atsumi, who's a dear guy, I love Atsumi, and I know him so well. And we in fact had a little Zoom together not long ago. But I can remember in one of these meetings, I was with I think Charlie Fielding was there and Gary, and we were naming presets for the SY-77 or the 99. And Atsumi turned to me and he said, "Dave, are any of these sounds bad words in English?" He said, and I would say, "No, Atsumi, no, nothing at all. No, it's all genuine, you know." And gosh, and Charlie and I were like trying to hold our laughter in. But one of the sounds on the SY-77 is called the hidden ring. This is a perfectly. I think it's a perfectly good name for the sound, right?
Yeah.
It's one of my things where you have to you had to hit the notes so hard, not hard, fast. You had to get your finger off it fast, and it was a bass sound because I wanted to get the effect of harmonics. So with a very tight envelope, you could if you got your thumb off the sound quick enough, you still had a bit of volume that would hit the decay slope. Ding. And so it was the hidden ring. But you can imagine what we were referring to when we called it the hidden ring.
Brilliant stuff. Jason in the audience wants to know, did you ever get asked to program a synth that you turned down but in hindsight regretted the decision?
I didn't turn down anything. I didn't turn down. Look, I was a muso trying to make money.
Yeah,
You're a tart. You're a tart, aren't you, Dave?
Correct. And I was trying to fill my diary with gigs, like everybody does.
Yeah.
I wish I'd made some different decisions. I wish I'd stuck with my band Slender Loris in Birmingham. That band should have been successful, and we never were, you know.
Yeah.
But I was always, trying to earn money. And to any young musician out there, a little bit more old guy advice, you know. Record your work, save it, publish it if you can. Try and make everything that you do work for you, because that's the only way to scrape a living. You know, and you ain't going to get famous. And if you do get famous, you probably end up in all sorts of trouble. You know? So okay,
words. Yeah.
So I was trying to make a career out of being a musician, which means you don't turn down work. And I programmed synthesizers, like especially during the cell phone era before MP3 files. There were a lot of phones out there with Yamaha's little FM. And that was absolutely good for me. I found a few, and some guys from EMU, Dave Sparks from EMU. He wrote an FM synth, I think, for Qualcomm. They needed some sounds, and So no, I haven't turned anything down. I wish I'd been asked to do more. I love create voices. I love it.
Yeah.
I still do.
Good.
I'll sit in FM8 on my computer in the evening, with a cup of cocoa, play the electric piano, and then chuck it away. Just for the fun.
Dave, that means you're going to make up a bank for us, which we can stick on the Patreon. Isn't that right?
That would be cool. That would be cool.
40 quid.
Steve's got a question in the chat. When did you last see or play an actual DX7?
Oh, long time ago.
Yeah.
Long.
You've not got one knocking around anywhere?
No, I had one, my production model that I carried around. I left that in the UK for my son, who's over in the UK. I haven't got. I got this little thing that Yamaha sent me. This.
The reface.
The reface. Yeah, that's nice. That's a lovely instrument. I love it, and it's really small, and I use it as a sort of bit of a sort of controller keyboard, just if I'm pumping in notation stuff or something like that. No, I haven't played. I still got my EMU E4K.
Yeah.
So do I. Back here in the corner.
And I've got an old nice Yamaha piano here to my right, which is just nice for playing a tune on. It's got nice weight action. I don't have like KX88s or anything fancy like that. I haven't spent money on a synthesizer. In fact, I never spent money on synthesizers.
You didn't have to. Yeah.
I got given them.
Yeah, but you've got a new.
I played a DX7. Can't remember.
Yeah, but you've got a new passion, haven't you? It's quite a physical thing where you have to squeeze your hands together. The old accordion.
Yeah.
Oh no, Dave, mate.
Yeah.
There is video evidence on Dave's channel.
There is, yeah.
Yeah.
Working my way through a couple of jigs and reels. Yeah. And I put that up there just to show that I'm serious. I don't mind, people laughing at me or not sounding very good. I love the accordion.
There you go.
I
Nothing
love
to
it.
be ashamed of.
I spent all of these years telling accordion jokes, the X7 demonstrations. What's perfect pitch? Tossing the accordion in the dumpster and it lands on the banjo, things like that.
Yeah.
And now I went out two years ago or so, and something possessed me. There's this little place up here in Seattle, Potosa Accordions, 4 generations of Italian guys who made accordions, and they got this lovely little shop. And I went and bought one. I don't know what was I thinking. I don't know. I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, if it makes you happy.
Oh.
Have you seen Korg have just released a digital accordion?
Not interested. No. Not interested in that. No.
No, they're colder.
My daughter runs a Battersea Arts Centre in London.
Uh-huh.
Right, she's big in Battersea Arts Centre, and they had an accordionist there, I think, recently, with the London Philharmonic or something like that. Big orchestral do with an accordionist, and I remember her telling me, she said, "Oh, you'll want to see this, And I did. I watched it, and he played MIDI accordion.
No.
What's the point? Didn't move this at all. No, it didn't move. It just.
But that's all the
Why
expression.
did you get out a KX5? Play that. And just, I didn't know. I don't like MIDI accordion.
Oh dear.
Sorry.
Dear. No.
Do I sound angry? Do I sound grumpy?
No, not at all. Not at all.
You're in the right place.
Yeah. I know you already mentioned it, but Half God, Half Beast wanted to know what you thought of the Korg Op 6, but you're a big fan, yeah?
I am a fan. Yes, I would. I never stayed too much in touch with Korg because it was just a thing. They wanted me to do some voices and really to talk to them about it and to do a little interview to say what I thought,
Yeah.
I thought it was a pretty nice synth, and because it's not expensive.
No.
And I get some great sounds out of it. I mean, really, I would it'd been lovely if that had been on the DX7.
Yeah. Because it exposes the programming interface, in a much more physical, immediate way, doesn't it?
Yeah. The only thing about the Op 6 that I don't like, and it's more a matter of principle, this notion that, having a few digital faders, is the same as, nobody quite understood what it was that musicians were saying in the 80s when they said they wanted a synthesizer with knobs on. They got synthesizers with knobs on, but they were the wrong sort of knobs. And I think that the musicians at the time were unable to articulate how wrong those knobs were.
Yeah.
They didn't want digital knobs. They wanted analog knobs.
Yeah.
Knobs with a stop and a start point and a fixed, a fixed effect.
Weight and heft as well.
With a little bit of weight and heft as well. Yeah. So you feel like you're circuit bending when you move those knobs.
Yeah.
And patch chords. That's all nice. I mean, I keep a sort of distant eye on the Euro stuff, and I like that.
Dangerous game.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. I just want to quickly ask you, so we're getting close to the end here. So this year is 50 years of Yamaha synthesizers, 1974, and here we are in 2024. I just, as somebody who's been heavily involved with that journey, particularly, I think unquestionably the most prolific and successful part of that 50 years. How do you feel about where Yamaha, specifically Yamaha, are these days? Are they still, in your eyes, pushing the envelope, for want of a better phrase, or do they now seem to sort of just be a box shifter and just tick those easy boxes?
Well, really, Rob, I don't honestly, I don't know. I mean, I have kept in touch with some of my Japanese colleagues. I always admired the engineers, you know, they for what they did. I had one or two great friends, Hirokato, who became president of Yamaha. I met him when he was first in research and development, and he was a wonderful guy. And it's usually their engineers from the synth division who go on to become president of the whole kit and caboodle, the whole company. And I think Yamaha as a company does have some good values. You know, they do want to make fine musical instruments.
Yeah.
And they believe that fine musical instruments is all about expression and articulation. And they want to be a musical company. They don't want to dictate what musicians do. They see themselves as servants to musicians,
right,
which is a good thing. And I think that that's still very much part of the company. They're a very old company. They're very conservative, very traditional. One Japanese manager said to me, I won't say his name, but at one time when I was interested in getting inside the company, we were having lunch in London somewhere, and he said, Dave, he said, I appreciate that you really you're prepared. I was prepared to have I had earrings. I said, I'll take my earrings out and buy a suit, you know, to get into the company. And he said, I appreciate that. He said, but your eyes are the wrong shape to get into to have any success in Yamaha. Right. I valued that. I value the fact that he told me that. And also it just gave me one little insight in what it might be to be an African American, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
When you really feel yourself on the outside. Yeah. And however much you're welcomed in, you can only ever be the pet dog who's welcomed at the table, you know. You cannot sit at the table. Yeah, and that was something I've always remembered about Yamaha. It didn't affect my relationship with them.
No.
I think it was a great company, and they treated me real well when in England I decided that we had to part company. And at that time, everybody was being taken in to see them, the manager, because they were getting packages and all the rest of it. You know, I'd never worked for Yamaha, and I went and I saw this guy, and he said, Dave, he said, I'm very sorry to say, but you've never actually been on the books.
Yeah.
For Yamaha, you know, I've been a contractor all this time. You know, even though at that time I was working at an office in London. And I said, well, I'm sorry to hear that. I said, but that's fine, but I understand. Because they asked if I wanted to move with the company to Germany, to their head office.
Yeah.
I said, no, I don't want to do that. And that's when I was told, so it's like, there's nothing for you. And then, so I was about to leave, and he said, however, he said, the board of directors, Mr. Hayoshi, would very much like to offer you a gift to help you on your journey. You know, which was, I'm almost embarrassed to say, like effectively a year's salary in a company car.
Wow.
And that was it was like a personal gift.
Wow.
That's incredible.
I was really touched by that. I thought that's incredible.
Yeah, amazing.
As it happened later on, I was back with Yamaha again, and stuff. When Emu went all pear-shaped for me.
Yeah.
I had a good time at Emu for a long time, but it did go pear-shaped in the end.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to get you back on and go maybe talk a bit more about the time at Emu, because we've touched on it. Obviously, Andrew asked a few pertinent questions, but yeah, we'll have to do that, because one of the things that we're doing in a few weeks' time, actually, it's getting scarily close, is this year is the 40th anniversary of the Emulator 2. Yeah. And one of our viewers, Peter James Stephen, has got a few bits of Emu gear, and I've borrowed some off of Kent, and I've got some stuff of my own here. And we're going to be doing a display, an Emu display, at Synthfest in Sheffield on October 5th. And then a week later, we're going to be down in Bristol at Machina Bristronica, which is the big synth show down in the southwest. And Dave Rossum is going to be there. Oh. And apparently he's very excited to come and see what we've got. So, we'll definitely have to get you to come back on and talk about the Emu days.
I'll have to get a party hat for that one that's been sitting in the garden all year.
Yeah. But listen, Dave.
It's very nice that you guys have me. I quickly quickly want to shout out, that all of this stuff that I've been talking about, I have these big memories. Gary was very important to me, Gary Luenburger.
Yep.
Very much part of the journey. And eventually, of course, John Chowning.
Yeah, because you read the book with John, didn't you?
Yeah, we became such firm friends, and especially in Paris, because he was on sabbatical.
That's right.
I was in the MIDI studio there. That's where we wrote the book. And John taught me. He backfilled my sort of lust learning about FM. It was wonderful. And other stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, all of that was evident when I got you and Gary and John and Manny together for the Sound on Sound podcast. Little plug here, if you want to go and hear Dave's stories plus Gary's and Manny's, and of course the great Dr. John Chowning, without whom, although he would say otherwise, but without whom we probably wouldn't have all of this stuff. Here you go. I'm going to light it all up now. Well, there it is. So yeah, I mean, go and check that out on the Sound on Sound podcast page. It was great fun to do that, and great fun to get you guys together. And have you all chatting away. It was just, I could just sit back and listen all day long. But listen, Dave, thank you so much for coming on. It's an absolute pleasure, always a pleasure to talk to you and just to listen to your stories, because they are so amazing. I
hope they're about 90% accurate.
Yeah, it's the way. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine. But no, it's been an absolute honour to have you on. Thank you ever so much. I think we've had loads of great responses. If I didn't get to answer everyone or ask everyone's questions, please save them up, because we will try and persuade Dave to come back on again soon and talk more about this. But Dave, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, because it must be coming up to about 1 p.m. over there.
Yeah. Got myself egg on toast now.
Yeah, gonna have some lunch.
It's lovely to see Andrew looking so well, and to meet Kent.
It's all smoke and mirrors and a bit of Vaseline on the lens, I think.
Oh, you know about that, yeah.
Yeah. Oops. Synchrotron has just donated. Oh no, wrong one. The chat goes past so fast. There we go. £10 from Synchrotron, and £5 from Kissing the Machine, and 5 Swiss chuffs from Wagyu over there in Switzerland. Thank you ever so much indeed for all of those wonderful donations. Much appreciated. Of course, if you want to help, you can sign up with Patreon or YouTube members. That's a fantastic way to help support the channel. Dave, thank you so much. Andrew, thank you as always. And much lined up for the weekend?
Yeah, I've got a shoot on Monday, so I'm busy with scripts and call sheets and all that kind of stuff. Cool. So yeah, I'm going to be spending most of it here.
Lovely.
Although I might do a little playing. But we'll see.
Ken, have you got a busy schedule over the weekend, or are you going to put your feet up for a little while?
Oh no, it's mental.
What's
I
in the workshop?
Mostly cobwebs. No, there's quite a few machines to do, including, funnily enough, a DX100.
No,
the guy drove miles to bring it. It needs a new battery. Oh, bless it.
No.
So
That's
got them
one
in
I
stock.
haven't got in my collection.
Have you not?
I've not got a DX100. No.
I'm also putting some stuff up for sale tomorrow. So the Osmos is going up.
Ooh.
The Rolly Seaboard is going up.
Oh.
And there might be a few other bits and pieces as well. I don't want a great deal of money for it. No,
is this to go towards the
yeah,
the polygroup? Yeah,
okay. Because somebody nearly, well, as Andrew knows, somebody nearly bought one this morning on credit, which would cost an extra, what was it, £1,500? And just as I'm getting ready to buy it, I get a packet of chocolate hobnobs right in the side of the head from Fiona, who went, no. Oh,
bless.
Oh,
well,
okay.
Yeah.
They bloody hurt them hobnobs, I tell you.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So, well, brilliant.
You know what? I would love an hobnob at the side of the head right now. I can't get them.
Can't get
mate, I really can't recommend it, honestly.
Well, right.
Yeah, it's
about the front side.
From the front,
We'll do you a package.
At low velocity.
Yeah, let's do a care package to see.
Yeah.
Just very quickly, Doobs in the chat. I bought my first DX7 when Dave demoed it to me in 1987.
Right, there you go.
Don
There you go.
Dubay, you beaut.
Indeed. So if you want
His
more
work
synth
here is
related,
done.
if you want more synth related content, Andy Synchrotron will be doing his live stream tomorrow at 10 a.m. So go and check that out. It's always good fun listening him literally to drone on because he's very into his drones. He's got a book about them now, so he should be getting better at them. Ramsey will be on at 2 p.m. in the UK or UK time. I don't know who else. Have we got anything going on Saturday or Sunday? Anyone else? I don't know if Jamie's back. Jamie did a live stream the other day, actually.
Are you doing a pub?
Did he?
Yeah.
Am I doing a who? What?
A pub?
You're doing one of your pubs?
I'll do. I'll probably do a pub tomorrow night. Absolutely, because I've got a horrible feeling Fiona's going to be watching some absolute dross.
Well, doesn't
Again.
Strictly Come Dancing come back on tomorrow?
Oh, even she won't watch that.
Oh, she won't watch that. Okay.
Well,
that's good.
it's called Strictly Poncing About, really, isn't it? I mean,
Dave, just so you know, a pub is like one of these, except it's a little more informal, and Kent hosts it, and we will just talk.
and lots of swearing is allowed.
Lots of swearing.
Lots of swearing.
Talking about men's problems and ladies' problems. And,
Yeah,
Indeed.
Yeah.
and
Anyway.
there's a DX patch I can tell you about, but not on this show.
Right then.
Kent Spong pub.
Listen, thanks everyone for watching. Thank you for all the donations. Thank you for all the likes and the thumbs up and the subscriptions and all of that stuff as well. We love you loads for it. We'll be back same time next week. We didn't do any news or any sort of stuff this week because we had Dave. We wanted to give as much time to that.
And
I
there
think-
wasn't any.
yeah, well, there wasn't much news anyway. Apart from the free drum tracks plug-in from Full Bucket Music. Go and get that because it's free and because it's rather good. But we will see you same time, same place next week. Thank you for your patronage as always. Have a great weekend. Make lots of music. And again, thank you to Dave. Thank you to Andrew. Thank you to
Yay.
Kent. See you all soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Au revoir.
Dave, bye.